Is the Overwatch League creating more boring meta trends that we have to suffer through on ladder? There are certainly a lot of people that believe so, and that for good reason. The natural course of meta trends has usually been dominated by the occasional pro tournament, where teams came up with the most effective ways of playing the game at the time. Ladder players often took that inspiration and transformed it into something that could be effective without the level of skill and coordination that pro players display during their matches. And the finding phase of those meta trends is often fairly interesting. Some things are obviously only effective because of the level of skill that pro players have. For example, the double sniper comp that is frequently being used on Junkertown. The only reason that works is because these players are actually able to hit shots reliably, which is not something you can really say of most players on ladder. And that is why a lot of us are still running pirate ship on Junkertown, because it's more simple and foolproof. One thing that's been on many YouTubers' radar already is the quad tank setup that so far has been run fairly rarely. My initial statement to the boom of coverage for this particular comp was, do not just focus on what they are doing, but look at why they are not doing it all the time. The answer is simple. Pro players care the most about improving their chances to win, so you can be pretty sure that whatever comp they are running, they decide to play it because they believe it to be the best comp available. And those conditions can change depending on which map they're playing or even which players are subbed into the currently active roster. So if they don't run something virtually all the time, that means they did not deem it to be universally viable. And originally, I was not gonna dedicate an entire video to the idea of the league being the sole cause for more meta trends that we end up despising. But something interesting has happened to me recently that changed my mind on the matter, and for that we're gonna need a bit of context. You see, one bit of criticism that's being leveraged against me fairly frequently is that I'm disconnected with what the average player is thinking because I'm mostly concerned with those who play up in Master and Grandmaster, and that's because for one, that's the rating I play in myself, and it's also the rating that I spectate the most in my spare time on Twitch. The criticism itself is by no means unwarranted. This level of bias, even if sometimes subconsciously, can very well push my point of view towards something that most players are not even concerned with in the first place, and meta trends are one such thing. To address the criticism, I've tried to tend to the opinions given by my own community of players who are in the ratings lower than my own. I asked them what they think of a certain issue and how they perceive a subject to affect the game and so on. And recently, I decided that it was time for me to get out of my comfort zone and start learning some new heroes to expand my horizon. And, well, be open for more points of views than just my own as a Zenyatta one-trick. So here goes me leveling up a new account, playing heroes I'm absolute garbage with, and there you go, I'm suddenly not quite as disconnected from the average player anymore, now having an account in Platinum. You know, it's kind of funny because Masters and Grandmasters often complain about how terrible a lot of the players in those ratings are, and well, it often is astonishing how somebody can be considered top 3% while lacking even a basic level of understanding for the game's mechanics. But yeah, I can see where all the complaints come from when talking about Platinum in particular. Now, to finally get to the point, something I commonly said was that new meta trends usually start in the pro scene, then high elo players adapt some variation of that, and it eventually makes its way down the ranks. What I realized was that meta influences obviously are less pronounced the lower the rating that we talk about. I mean, it makes sense. Not only are these players probably more concerned with just learning how to play period, but I'd say that they are also less likely to be interested in the pro scene in the first place, which is of course a baseless assumption. But here's the top kick. While playing on my Platinum account, in a single session I had multiple encounters with players attempting to run the quad tank setup as displayed in the Overwatch League, making it not only very apparent that they did not watch my video, but also making me feel like this subject might be relevant enough after all. Now, I wish that I recorded these matches, and initially I did because I thought maybe something funny could happen that I can use for a video, but I do not have an infinite amount of hard drive space available, and reviewing that footage I did not think was very fun to watch me struggle while trying to learn how to put my crosshair on people's faces. I'll show you guys some clips that I recorded in the beginning so you understand what I'm talking about, and mind you, those are the highlights. You don't want to see what happened between those clips. Anyway, something that I bet at least a few of you are wondering is, did it work? And the answer will be a resounding no. If you don't understand what makes a comp powerful, then countering it becomes a piece of cake. In every single instance, I swap to Junkrat and proceed to absolutely annihilate their attempts of even trying to play the game, getting a riptire approximately every 45 seconds. And this is why you don't just mindlessly copy what the pros are doing. Quad tank works in certain instances because the map design favors it. You want to try to take the fight to the point ASAP and force the opponents to come and get you, which is where you are more likely to come out ahead because of your close quarter AoE healing coming from Lucio and Moira. And because your comp features 4 heroes with very large health pools, you charge your ultimates very quickly. The downside, of course, with being so clumped up is that you are very susceptible to feed ultimate charge if you don't play it properly, and especially when running it on more open maps, the chances of you being able to stay together in a group of randos is not very high. Not to mention that you can't even properly contest high ground and you are very prone to fall to flankers and so on. The sad part was that I'm sure the 4 stack on the enemy team suggested it to the tier randos without fully understanding how to play the comp, ultimately leading to their demise, at least on the Numbani game. Now you could argue that if they were playing against somebody who, well, was not me or anyone else in the Smurf, chances of the enemies understanding the weakness of that comp will be slimmer, and that is fair. It might be more likely to overwhelm a team that has absolutely no idea what to do, but from my experience, even in Platinum, most players understand that you can counter large health pools with an extra serving of damage. Obviously, meta play refers to the most effective tactics that are available, so if something happens to not be effective, it is quickly going to be discarded by the community. Now I could just say that and call it a day, claiming that I've successfully defended my point, proposing that just blindly copying is not gonna work out. But reality is that this does not stop players from trying it, and a lot of the criticism that's leveraged against the league regarding their role as a meta trendsetter is not only directed at the creation of meta trends, but also the fact that players are going to want to try these things, fail, and get toxic if others refuse to adhere to their meta slavery. Which, whether those comps work out or not, and whether they actually become meta on ladder or not, does not matter. Because ultimately, it is still perceived to degrade some players' experience when playing. There are 2 sides to that coin that I really want you guys to understand. I know that this video was largely just anecdotes, but for this one, please listen. As much as you might hate meta slavery, it is only natural for players to look for the easiest way to win. You might want to prioritize your fun over that, but in a competitive environment, you can't just tell people to stop looking for things that help them win. No matter how often you say that you want every hero to be equally viable, that's never going to happen. The cast of characters in this game is just too diverse in mechanics for that to ever become reality. Some things will always be more universally effective than others, and some things will always be more niche. On the other side, trying to win is fine and all, but our ladder was not built with that level of coordination in mind, which in a team-based game is crazy, I know. But you can't expect everyone to stay up to date on what's meta in the pro scene, and you also don't know what the other 5 people on your team are good or terrible at. Don't worry too much about what the pros are running, but more about why they are running it, or why they are not running it all the time. And if you want to try these things out for yourself, getting a full 6 stack is really the only way to get a consistent experience. Ultimately, you cannot stop players from wanting to try out new things that they saw in tournaments and the like. And given that winning is extraordinarily more important to pro players than to us, you can bet your bucket that they will always be up to date on what is objectively the most effective comp to run for any given situation. They don't always make the right call, I mean, they are just humans too, but in the grand scheme of things, it's usually pretty accurate. But the reason why these things work does not only come down to it's broken, like it was the case with Mercy. Sometimes their supreme level of skill makes it work, or their vastly superior communication, but other times again, it might be entirely map dependent. And those are the times where we can really learn something, so try to keep your eyes peeled for that. Now if you excuse me, Shadow of the Colossus just got a remaster and God knows I've been dying to play that. So thank you everybody so much for watching, don't forget to drop me a like on your way out if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I hope to see you all next time.